Good afternoon and welcome. It is October 5th, 2020, and this is the Peralta Community College District Town Hall on FCMAT, our FCMAT update. FCMAT is the Fiscal Crisis Management Assistance Team, and we received a report from them a year ago that, or over a year ago, that we've been working very hard to follow and make some changes. We have a really wonderful program set for you today. I am going to share my screen here and get us going with the slides. While I'm doing that, and I realize I can't start the presentation because Zoom is over my controls. While we are presenting today, please use the Q&A feature and the chat feature to submit your questions. We are here to answer your questions and bring you up to speed. We also shared out a couple of documents that we would really welcome your feedback on. So as we go, please log your questions and submit them through the Q&A or chat function. Let's see. So the agenda, we've got an overview by Chancellor Walter, and then we'll be talking about different parts of the organization and what the updates are that have been made regarding FCMAT. So our Chancellor will be the host, and let me go ahead and introduce some of the panelists that we have. So Vice Chancellor Adil Ahmed from Finance and Administration, Brian Slaughter, the Director of Purchasing, Nick Shere from Accounts Payable, President Miller from College of Alameda, Dr. Vasconcellos from College of Alameda, Dr. Angélica Garcia from Berkeley City College, Dr. Kuni, Dr. Stacy Shears, also from Berkeley City College, a full contingent from Laney College today with Dr. Rudy Besikoff as president, Vicki Ferguson as VP of Student Services, Derek Pinto as Vice President of Administrative Services, and Mark Fields as the acting VPI. At Merritt College, we have Dr. David Johnson, the president, Dr. Lilia Chavez as the Vice President of Student Services, and Dr. Denise Richardson as the Vice President of Instruction. And then rounding us out from the district office, there's Antoine Merritt, the Director of IT, Dr. Siri Brown from Academic Affairs and Student Services, Chanel Whitaker from Human Resources, Dr. Lee Sada from General Services, and myself, Mark Johnson from Marketing, Communications, and Public Relations. And with that, let me turn it over to you, Chancellor.
Okay, great. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining the webinar. We're recording the webinar so that for posterity's sake, we'll have it for reference later. It's so nice to see all of you here, and really want to send a special shout out to VC Sada for being here with us today. So of course, all of you, I'm grateful that you're here. As you know the history about where we've been with FCMAT, and how, this district, all of the folks on this call, some of them, moved on to other opportunities as well, have done a heroic effort in getting our FCMAT recommendations addressed. And this is the reason for the call today, or the webinar today, is to look at them in brief, talk about which ones have been done or which ones are not done, as the case may be, and then really just acknowledge that some of them are ongoing and they'll never have a quote, "We're done with that." But this report, this FCMAT final report, will be shared with the Board of Trustees, and then of course shared with the State Chancellor's Office as well. So all of the many of you have had a hand in this document. And so what we want to do is make sure that we have it at least as accurate as possible, and then see if there's any feedback that we need moving forward. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I'm going to move right into the next slide and let us move on. Let's see here, we're on, yes. So we had a number of areas that FCMAT recommended, and this slide is telling you the different categories that we had and the total number of recommendations for each area, and showing whether they're complete, ongoing, or ongoing and in process, or not complete, or not applicable. So, you know, I'll just basically say that all of the areas around position control, as you probably know, are not complete. And some of our areas in purchasing are ongoing. Some of our internal controls are ongoing. And then, you know, the one that I want to talk about just briefly, and maybe VC Whitaker, I saw you on the call. You know, one of the recommendations was to think about, you know, not having employee benefits. And so, VC Whitaker, are you there?
Yes, Chancellor, I'm here.
Would you like to say a word or two about that recommendation?
Sure. One of the FCMAT recommendations was that the district take a look at the benefits that it currently offers to our retirees, and to take a look at benefits for incoming employees. And I would say at that time it's ongoing. We, the Department of Benefits, which is under Human Resources, we've had contact with our third-party benefits vendor. We've been doing this for about the last 6 to 8 months, and we have had a couple of meetings where our vendor Alliant has made some recommendations on how the district could possibly look at making a change to our benefits programs for retirees and incoming employees. The concern at this time, which is why we can't just jump in and make an immediate change, is because of our collective bargaining agreements. Any change to our benefit structure that involves our unionized employees must go through an extensive bargaining period. And also, when we look at our retiree programs, some of you that may fall into this category may know that our retirement program is separated into two separate entities. We have our pre-2004 program, where if you were hired by the district prior to 2004 and retired with at least 10 years of service, then you receive full-time lifetime benefits. So that is a major thing. At the time when we implemented that, of course, it was something that all of our employees wanted to take advantage of, that had worked with us for 10 years or longer, that had been hired prior to 2004. And that is a wonderful, wonderful benefit. However, that is something that is tremendously costly to the district. It always have been. And with the cost of benefits going up every year, it's only continuing to get more expensive. But because even our retirees, while they are not current employees, if we make changes to those retiree benefits, we still have to bargain with the current employees. So it's just a whole host of things that we have to do before we can implement making changes. And it just requires extensive bargaining with our union groups. But also the other thing is, some of the quotes that we have received from our vendor, we haven't been able to confirm whether or not those costs would go up in the future. So the information that we have been provided thus far tells us that initially the district's costs would go down, but we haven't seen that trend would stay stable and those costs will continue to go down. As with anything, it looks very enticing in the beginning, but as you get into it and as fees increase and laws increase, then the benefit costs would increase. And so before we dive into that, we just want to make sure that any contract we sign and anything that we bring forward to the district will in fact lower the cost to the district and not increase over time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, VC Whitaker. So we're going to move on. Thank you. We'll move on to the next slide and we'll just keep rolling forward. So technology, we have our technology experts here. So perhaps we would have Antoine say a few words here.
Yes, I can summarize all these three recommendations. It's have to do with all the access that are being granted to our district over the years. We have this archaic form that people are signing in and requesting access and sometimes don't even understand the access that being granted. And we have moved on to that. So what the first thing we did is we went back and review all the users that doesn't work, that are not working with Peralta anymore, and remove them from the system. So we used to have those users in the system for years and years and years, and having access role permissions that can allow them to go back and do things. And we addressed that immediately. And the next things we did is to put in place a process to deal with this on the day-to-day basis. Basically, what we did is work with HR and created a notification process. Anytime HR create an account for a new user, IT get notified. This user was hired, and then we configure the system with the permission that was requested. Anytime the user changes, like when you see faculty moving to dean and then move back, that's what they call role changes. Then we get a notification also to say this person left, that is no longer an administrator, is a dean. So we have to strip back the permission. So we didn't have that before. So we put that in place. And we did the same thing for the account termination. Anybody who's terminated, now IT get a notification. So these processes work, but also we need to keep in mind sometimes we have a culture of not putting the system, the request on time, and that caused an issue. And basically somebody left the district and the EPAF, the termination EPAF doesn't get in 3 days later or 4 days later. So we don't get the notification. In those cases, usually the managers will contact us and let us know this person is leaving, disable the account. And then we'll go ahead and do that. But we want to make sure that as a district, we have a culture of putting all those information in on time so we can receive the request and act on it right away. So that's one. And we are also working on developing, everybody knows the form, the PeopleSoft Access form. Right now we are migrating to 9.2, and we are also working on taking the forms away. So basically we are working on creating a role-based security form or security. Basically based on your title and your job description, you will have access to these systems. So we are working closely with business. We already finished finance, we finished HR also, and HCM. So we are moving those to the new Oracle Cloud. So when we go live, then that's gonna be the new security template. Now, keep in mind, we may get some complaints. Some people's role will be removed because some people have way more access than they never had before. So we ask the functional analyst to go and review all those roles and make sure that these people have only the role they need based on their job descriptions. So that have been also put in place. So we are working on that, that's ongoing. So that will be coming soon to be in place. That will solve a lot of issues around people having access right, removal and all that stuff. So in the overall situation, that's what we're working on. And it is some of these things are ongoing. We are working with HR, we are working with finance, we are working with everybody to make sure that this access right and security right is there. And it's good for IT also to make sure our systems are safe and secure. And there's a lot of people that have a lot of permission. So also I will add also, we're working also with our internal auditor, Momo. Has been helping with that process also to give us some guidance, what can we do, what can we not do. So
thank you, Antoine. Yes, I forget Momo, she's our internal auditor. We're moving on. Thank you, Antoine.
no problem.
Purchasing, the FCMAT purchasing solutions. Brian?
I'm here. Hold
Okay.
on. I'll let you see me. I just happen to be upstairs, so I don't like to see myself that much. So anyway, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about some of the solutions that we provided for FCMAT. And I put the recommendations in red, and in blue you'll see some of the things that were required.
Let me interrupt you, Brian, and tell everybody that Brian has 3 slides, but he still only has 3 minutes.
Okay,
So.
a minute a slide, that's good.
Okay.
All right, so we are separate. We did separate from facilities, capital projects. Strategies were implemented to ensure funding, that the projects were funded before we even went to pre-approval and awarded the public works contracts. Purchase orders are now dispatched simultaneous with contracts, so this strategy will ensure timely payments to contractors. And also, they recommended that we be separately supervised from accounts payable, and that's something that's been done. So I can go to the next one. Let's see. So it also said that we need to update our board policies and administrative procedures. That's been done. Every year we have to comply with the state of California's bid thresholds. That's been done. With the new board policies, the board policy should be coming up for adoption shortly. As you'll see, the prices went from $92,600 up to $95,200. Those are for equipment and supplies, non-construction services. Anything that's not related to public works contracts. For construction projects, the board did a great move. They adopted the Uniform Cost Accounting Act, which allows them to stay on schedule with a lot of their small purchases, and also allows us an opportunity to work directly with small local businesses. That's one of the requirements we have here. So we've done that. Also, we are ensuring that staff is held accountable for obtaining and approval of the purchases. What we've done basically here is we have now implemented the Adobe sign. That's helped a lot. We also review the encumbrances before dispatching purchase orders, and we utilize the CTS and Adobe sign for contract approvals. We have developed our training purchasing handbook. So far, we've conducted training with the executive cabinet and the campus business managers. Training is ongoing, and we are hoping to, well, we are going to be training, putting together schedules to go out to the campuses and the sites to talk about training and how to do purchasing with the district. We routinely are working with AP and business managers to review the list of POs to avoid the practice of bid splitting. That was one of the recommendations. And another recommendation was to distribute workloads among my buyers and assistant buyers. So I try to give them as much work as possible. No. But no, we do a workload distribution, and I review that monthly. And that's it. I think I came in under 3 minutes.
Great. Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
All right, we're just going to move on to accounts payable. I believe we have Nicolas Shere here.
So yeah, I'm Nick. I'm with accounts payable, and as everyone who knows me knows, I can talk for a long time, but I'll avoid that now.
Oh yes, I was going to say Nicolas also has several slides, which he's going to move through quickly.
Very quickly. So there are 2 issues for accounts payable that are really one issue, and it's verbal orders and timely payments. The primary obstacle to timely vendor payments is cases where the goods or services are received and invoiced before a dispatched PO, what we informally call verbal orders. In those cases, on average, the rec is not created until 2 months after the invoice date, meaning it's impossible to keep those within our pay terms. We've addressed this through policy announcements beginning in May 2018 with the One Peralta Go Live, and through training users so that they can use the procurement system more efficiently and effectively. We've also reached out to vendors to educate them on the procurement process. While this is an ongoing struggle, verbal order origination has dropped significantly, especially at the campuses. And we're really happy with that. This is a graph showing the volume of new verbal order invoices month by month from July 2017 to August 2020. And you can see that after about May of 2018, which was the go live, we see a big drop off. And we had a bit of a rocky time over the last year because last year was really rough for everyone for every reason. But we're in a pretty good place now. And we can hit that last slide, which should be real fast. So in cases where the PO procedures are followed, meaning that we have the PO first and then the goods or services, average AP turnaround to voucher invoices has been brought down below our pay terms of 30 days, and the window so far in fiscal year 21 is 14 days. Paperless invoice processing lets us have timely payments even under shelter-in-place conditions, and it also creates opportunities for better record accessibility and transparency for end users. We've developed and provided training on queries to allow end users to extract and analyze data related to their procurement to support their planning and reporting. And we're working with IT to expand our payment methods to increase flexibility and efficiency. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Turning it over to the experts and the folks from College of Alameda.
Good afternoon, everybody. So the colleges are going to, just to preface us a little bit, the colleges are going to talk about our pieces and our contribution to responding to the FCMAT report and some of the things that we've sort of done and continue to do to increase our success and our metrics on our campuses. So starting off with financial aid was mentioned in the FCMAT report, and so I put up a slide here. You can see that while our actual metrics in our SCIF numbers are going down, in part that's what we've seen is it's related to enrollment decline as well. However, you can also see that there's been a 21% increase in the amount of workshops that we're offering students. Our in-reach is really strong right now. We're doing financial aid labs. We're doing a lot of online support since March of 2020. And we've increased our classroom presentations as well. And that's even been increased further this academic year with everybody being remote and online. On some level, in a strange way, for financial aid and for folks in student services, it's easier to do in-reach in our online environment.
And again, everyone has only a few minutes.
I know, so go to the next slide. Dawn, go for it.
So the next one, our course outlines of record. Much like everyone else in the district, we do our updates through the program review cycle. So every 2 years for career education courses, 3 for all other courses. And then another important piece of this is program appraisal and a potential deactivation process. Curriculum Committee has been leading that process since the AP and BP were updated last year. It'll be an ongoing annual process, and at COA last year, they laid out an entire list of old programs, certificates, and degrees that needed to be cleaned up in the catalog and in Curricunet, and then they're looking forward in the upcoming year to looking at more active programs. So next slide.
All right, so to continue to impact our SCIF numbers and address FCMAT, one of the things that the college has been working on, which all of us have been working on for the past few years, my slide's a little wonky there, sorry about that, but is really focusing on guided pathways. And the college has, and there's an example here of a heart history mapping that we've completed, and then we're moving this year into meta majors. But you can see we've got a bump and transfer to four-year institutions a little bit in 2018-19, and then a little bit of a bump in our degree. As we know, anytime you're planning on increasing your metrics in degree and transfer, it's a 2 to 3 year sort of process to sort of really see that bump in progress. Next slide. So basically, I put this in here, but what we're all talking about, 100% of what we're talking about is impacting the SCIF. And really, it's a college-wide effort to focus on increasing our supplemental, our student success, and even our, dual enrollment, our non-credit, and our regular allocation as well. Next slide. I know we're like, Dawn.
And then this last piece just refers to the COA strategic enrollment management work. Back in January of this year, we had multiple special department chair meetings, and we went to a new FTF allocation formula by discipline that focused not only on a 3-year average, which was more typical of a practice for the past several years, but actually moving in to look at productivity, courses that appear on students' student ed plans, degrees and certificates awarded in the different disciplines over the past 3 years, course success rate, course retention rate. So it's the new allocation methods at the college are focused on all of the different elements that form part of the SCIF metrics. And I think that's probably it for us.
It is.
Great, thank you. Laney College?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Just a pleasure to be here today and to co-present with my fellow members of the Executive Council. Just going to touch on a few areas here. We really at the core of addressing the concerns with FCMAT, really a lot of it is our strategic enrollment management plan. And enrollment management plan for us means the first time a student thinks about possibly taking a class at Laney College, all the way to the time that they are done with us. So it's so much more than classes. It really is. And but we, through our consultative processes, we came up with a very exhaustive, comprehensive strategic enrollment management plan that has 3 main categories in terms of our goals. Our first of these, and this was before FCMAT and before a lot of the recommendations came, and they show that we were actually on the right track. The first category is our scheduling, curriculum, and program pathways. Some of the goals that are in there are that we follow the work of our guided pathways work group, and that we are doing that, and we continue to walk the talk with that, especially with some great things that you'll be hearing later in our presentation. That we grow dual enrollment, that in strategic fashion, and in measured fashion, that we grow our online offerings, and we do that. And then finally, and this appeared before any recommendations at all, but that we look at our course outlines and make sure that they are updated, as well as our programs. Second goal we had was support and services. And you're going to hear some alignment with what I just said a moment ago. You'll hear about we're increasing and varying our orientations for students. If students are taking classes, we want them oriented on the tutoring and other support services that we have. We're stepping up, and we have stepped up the rate of our courses that have embedded tutoring. And as we really continue to take kind of that case management approach and that personal attention approach to students, that we look at our learning communities and strengthening them. Great programs such as Umoja Ubaka, Puente, APAS, and one really stellar program we have, which is our Gateway to College program. And then
you only have 3 minutes.
Okay, and our final goal that we were looking at is marketing and outreach. We're taking a data-driven approach and looking at our students. And now I'll go ahead and hand over to Vice President Pinto to talk about our updated goals.
I'll speak to it very briefly. So these updated goals are just in direct response to the recommendations made by FCMAT, and they were vetted, revised, discussed, approved after consideration by our Strategic Enrollment Management Committee, and they're listed here: higher enrollment rates per class, continue cross-district scheduling efforts, and further integration of the SCIF. And that's it for me.
So at the heart of our efforts, as I mentioned, were guided pathways, and I'll hand over to Vice President Ferguson.
Thank you, Dr. Vasconcellos. In fall 2018, the Guided Pathway Work Group coordinated inquiry groups based on student needs, and over 400 students were either surveyed or participated in a inquiry group, Areas of interest, 8 areas of interest have been identified, and Laney College participated in the statewide cohort of the Program Mapper project. And we are moving forward with our areas of interest infinity work for this semester. I'll hand it over to Dr. Fields.
Thank you. And for our course outlines and record, those are, like other colleges, are updated during our program review process. That's a 4-year process for us, 2 years for career education, 4 years for the other classes. And each discipline knows when our course outline of records to be reviewed. Back to Dr. Beskov.
So as far as our next steps with guided pathways, and this is an exciting time for Laney College, we're going to be publicizing those maps that we created through the statewide project and now have on our website. We're going to be aligning our student support efforts with our areas of interest, the 8 areas of interest that you see on our schedule cover there. And then we'll also be moving forward and aligning our professional development efforts. Next slide, please.
Hi, thank you. For financial aid, I won't reiterate what my colleague shared about. Our goal is to definitely support students with financial aid support, as well as the supplemental allocation of the SCIF. Currently, we have 13,505 students who completed the FAFSA. Out of that, 12,755 are receiving some form of aid. And as you look at the data table from Data Mart from the State Chancellor Office, we recognize there are some areas where we have seen a decline, which is also reflective of our enrollment. But we are happy to say some of our efforts have been to combat this decline is to host campus and community events, partnering with East Bay Consortium to host Cash for College events, as well as with OUSD. District-wide collaboration, all the colleges were approved to hire financial aid directors, and this has been done at Laney College. And what I'm really excited about is our outreach and retention efforts. The financial aid department has moved into a case management model where our financial aid specialists are actually meeting with students based on their last names. And we just launched the ESARS appointments where students can go online and schedule actual 15-minute appointments with these financial aid specialists. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our presentation for Laney.
Thank you. Berkeley City College.
Yes. All right. I can start off. Good afternoon, everyone. So we just, similar to the other colleges, wanted to share how we're doing with financial aid in regards to the SCIF. And those are our numbers there. We've done a lot more outreach and making sure to connect financial aid and our outreach activities with our local high schools, FAFSA workshops within the college, and the same kinds of Cash for College events as the other schools. Next slide. Kuni, you're in there, aren't you? Kuni.
Sorry. So we make sure that the course outline of records are accurate and then are completed in a timely manner for review. And so we do several things, but the important ones are that the course outline of records ensure that it includes the student learning outcomes, and then our curriculum committee does a wonderful job in ensuring that with the faculty member. Also, curriculum recency was mentioned by COA, so I will skip that. Curriculum information in a catalog, we want to make sure that we are abiding by the Title V regulations and then also ACCJC compliance. So we make sure that all the courses that are offered in the catalog are actually offered and then meeting that COR alignment. In addition, our college does a cross-referencing of the accuracy of the information between what's in the catalog, what's in the schedule, what's in PeopleSoft, and what's in COKI, which is the State Chancellor's curriculum inventory. Next slide, please. I'm going to start off with the guided pathways and then pass it on to Stacy, but we have focused on removing barriers for the students in the last 2 years. We have a great framework and then a model of three pillars, getting ready, moving in, moving through, and moving on. And then what we have done is in alignment with that, our really framework of the enrollment management later on that we talk about, but we have identified 7 areas of potential growth areas. And with that we emphasize on the pipeline and then the pathways development with the partners from high school feeder schools to adult school to community-based organizations. So we made sure that unless the pathway or the pipeline concept is there, that we're not going to really get into a very deep partnerships. As a result, you can see that we have improved quite a bit of like CDCP non-credit to the credit pipeline and then on to the further enhanced level of transfer direction. Next slide. Okay, so, and then in 2021, excuse me, we are focusing on a meta measure development led by the 2 faculty co-leads and then a design team. Thank you.
Okay, and for this one, it's similar to the other colleges. This is our SCIF student metrics to just show how we're doing with students completing math and English college level. Due to the formatting of some of our courses, we need to get that data for 1920, but our data for 1718 and 1819 are there. And then you can see how we're doing with number of students with 9 or more career education units, number of students awarded ADTs, and that number has increased significantly for us. And then a number of students awarded an associate's degree there. Some decline, most likely from enrollment decline, and then number of students awarded a credit certificate, which is on the rise. And then, oh yeah, that's fine.
Okay, and then finally, we had a great fortune of being able to meet the 91.66% of the FTES goal for the fall semester, even under the COVID pandemic. And then we feel that contributors to that was the fact that we identified 7 areas of growth 2 years ago, fall 2018, when we first incepted and then wrote our integrated strategic enrollment management. Since then, those 7 areas were diligently and then faithfully looked at and then outreached and strategized through curriculum and course offerings and sequencing. And then that we feel like that has been contributing to the success that we see today. As you can see, one of the examples that we show here are that the enormous amount of dual enrollment increase since 2018. And we are now offering 5 times as many more courses as compared to 2 years ago. And then also the amount of students enrolled in those courses are 214% increase.
Thank you so much. Moving on to Merritt College.
Yes, good afternoon. I just wanted to report pretty much very similar to the other colleges, our supplemental metrics to increase our SCIF. As you can see in our areas, we've had a decline also with our California Promise Grant, and we have some set goals. With the Pell Grant, we see a smaller decline, 9.7. With the AB 540 students, we see a 2.1 increase. So we've improved in that area. Overall financial aid, we have received over 5,131 for 1920 at a 6.6 decline. And one of the things that we're looking at closely is the incomplete FAFSA applications. So we've improved in that area 42.8%, but still this year we've had 2,963 completed, but 624 are still outstanding. And we've had an increase also with the California DREAM Act applications. And
so I just want to remind everybody, sorry, Merritt, you guys have several slides.
Yes.
You want to go to the summary, the slide that's going to just sort of tell us the overview. I don't want to have a lot of detail.
Sure.
We just want to have it related to the FCMAT report and what's in the FCMAT report. And what's in the FCMAT report has to do with audit findings, and it has to do with, really looking at your enrollment management and your course outlines of record. So those are the 3 areas for Merritt. And just briefly.
If you want, we can move forward from this because I just
okay.
To the next slide.
Oh, we went too far.
I think we can move to the slide that says course outline of record.
2 slides down, I think.
Keep going, keep going. There we go.
There you go.
All right, let's talk about this, and then let's talk about any of the audit situation there. I think it's an interesting thing to talk about. So.
All right, go ahead, Denise.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. In terms of our course outlines of record and our program updates, we've made a significant amount of progress, particularly over the past 3 years. Ensuring timely curriculum updates is not just something that comes from the Office of Instruction, but it comes from professional development, guided pathways, and the Faculty Senate. In 2019, 2020, Merritt went from 37% to 68% in course compliance and 29 to 52% in program compliance. We're not letting up. We're continuing with that progress and anticipate comparable results for this school year. So we can move to the next slide. Just briefly, in terms of guided pathways, in spring 2020, we developed our areas of interest. We had focus groups. We had vetting through the participatory governance committees to look at those, and we are set for approval this fall. We also began program mapping in spring 2020, which of course is a lot of work that's been done with our consultant, program mapping consultant, who's working with all of our chairs to help develop our 2-year and extended degree programs, because as much as we want our students to all finish in 2 years, we're also being very cognizant of the fact that we have part-time students who will need longer, so we're making sure that our schedules are able to adjust to accommodate that. We're also doing a website overhaul.
So can we go back to the previous slide, and Dr. Johnson, can you talk a little bit about what you all, or someone on your team, your expert, can talk a little bit about what you all did for your financial aid audit findings?
Yeah, I'll turn that back to Vice President Chavez.
Okay.
For the, is it the financial aid audits? Or our Department of Education 12 recommendations?
Both of those.
Okay, so at Merritt College, we had a Department of Education visit back in March of 2019, and we did a deep dive into addressing all of the recommendations. We had a second visit on September 8th through the 10th, and we addressed everything that was requested by the Department of Education. We had a big team that participated in all the meetings, and the Department of Education received the work that was completed and have cleared us and made sure that we were confirmed of addressing all the recommendations, and we have updated the website, made some major changes, and we hired our Director of Financial Aid, and all findings we were cleared from at this point.
And then further compliance, we're moving forward, hiring a financial aid officer as well.
Okay, very good. And then I understand that there's some folks some specialists that are here are experts from finance, and maybe we can hear from them just briefly. I know we don't have a slide necessarily in here, but I think those audit findings overall for FCMAT are something that we need to talk about here and say where we are. So let's see, who is here? Adil or Tammy or anyone?
Tammy is here at the moment. Could you hold on a minute, because I believe Adil is going to give a presentation. So just a moment.
No, we're not wanting a presentation. We just want to know how the audit findings are going. And so we don't necessarily need a presentation. We just need to kind of have an idea of where we're at. There was also some conversation about OpEB and what we needed to do there. So we probably could talk a little bit about that. So while we're waiting, I know that we, as a district, have really worked on our OpEB funds and our program. We did some defeasing of the bonds, certain tranches of the bonds, and did some restructuring. And we're looking to put together a program going forward that will help us really manage our OpEB funds. And you can see that if you read the narrative in the FCMAT report. I think it's important for us to be cognizant of what's happening with our with our OpEB funds, and to be sure that we're, really staying on top of those. Those are put in place you know, as they say back in the day when, you know, you and I were children, let's just say that. And so now we're really having to look at those and manage them in a way that doesn't continue to escalate in costs for the district. And I think we're moving forward with that. And then, as you know, we had several audit findings and things like, you know, not closing on time, not making sure we reconcile. You know, we didn't have a separation of duties from many of our folks. And it isn't anybody's fault, it just was what it was. So now we have separation of duties. We have the ability to, we've moved forward with being able to reconcile our bank accounts and and close our accounts on a monthly basis. So we're able to be really certain of our financial situation, cash we have on hand, and so forth. We're not done. That's one of the things I'm going to come back to Antoine in a minute to say, you know, what we still have left to do, if there's anything to say there. But Adil, do you have anything to add about our audit findings and what we're doing there?
At this moment, with the new auditors, we don't have any funding yet, but I believe they're waiting that we send them trial balance and the 311A, which we believing we're gonna finish by Friday, so they can have all those remaining things that they need to review. But at this time, we don't have any findings. I think the issue that we have was the financial aid was repetitive, and we're gonna only have the only one that's gonna be repetitions on the finding that we have to be aware of. It is gonna be the fixed asset, Carla, because we have to work on that. I believe that's the only one we're gonna have as a repetition on the audit report.
Okay, because as you know, audit findings are never good, never. Even if they're, you know, well, we didn't find anything that was like, you know, underhanded, but, you know, they still report all those findings, and we want to make sure we have a clean audit. So that's really all I wanted to say. There's a lot in the FCMAT report. There's like, we know there's 75 areas. Who can count to 75? I mean, Jesus. So any questions or comments about the FCMAT report? Anything you want to say, something you want to add, anything?
This is the opportunity to use the, to raise your hand or submit your question through chat or submit your question through the Q&A feature. We are here to get your questions answered. Well, while we're waiting for that, if I might be so bold, I can give you a brief update on communications. So
perfect.
There were a couple of communications recommendations from FCMAT. One of them was to create a comprehensive marketing and communication plan. And I think that we sent out a draft of that in May, revised the draft in August, and I welcome any feedback that people might have on that draft. The second piece was about internal communication. This is a work that's in progress, which is mapping out the communication flow from our various shared governance meetings to make sure that we are accurately communicating from chancellor to presidents to the community, and also from the community to academic and classified Senate representation back up. So that piece of the communication plan is being incorporated in our next iteration of our fiscal year 2021 marketing and communications plan. So that's in progress. And I'm looking for
questions.
Well,
Mark is getting ready for the question in the chat. I just want to also say, you know, our marketing team has developed our branding image with our PowerPoint slides and our documents, our letters, and so forth. And I really, really appreciate that branding image. It's a really wonderful way to set the foot forward for the district whenever you communicate either internally or externally with folks. So I really appreciate that, Mark. It looks really, really nice. So back to you.
Thank you, Chancellor. And speaking of branding, for the slides, I have to say that the colleges gave me beautiful slides, and it was the integration with that district branded PowerPoint that caused a little bit of the wonky display on the slide. So that's my fault. That's not my colleagues at the colleges. And we'll be working on fixing that for the next time that we do this kind of presentation. So we had a question that came in, which is, are we still partnering with CBT, or the Collaborative Brain Trust?
Well, I'll take that question. We're still working with CBT in terms of, and Antoine can speak further to it if necessary, to work through the technology plan. And we're hoping to be concluding with that plan by November. But other than that, we have, moved forward. How about we put it like that in terms of our work with CBT? Thank you for the question.
Great. So next up, we have a hand from Jennifer Shanowski. Jennifer, you should be free to talk.
Is she not able to speak, or?
Okay. She's talking is permitted. She may have children at home causing a madhouse. So we have another question in the meantime, which is, can the district share the efforts and results from the email campaign to promote our colleges?
So the one from Antoine?
This is, I think this is more general. I'd love to start on this and then turn it over to my colleagues at the colleges. So we have introduced a new email system for the Peralta colleges. Previously, we used a system called GovDelivery. It was sort of a blasting tool. It wasn't really an opportunity for engaging students. We've now switched to a tool called HubSpot Marketing Hub. And with HubSpot Marketing Hub, we have the opportunity for personalization in the messages, and we can also put together more visually rich media for communicating out to the students. All of the colleges are now using HubSpot, and with the new tool, we're able to see open rates and click-through rates in a level of transparency that we've never seen before. So it's very, very exciting in these new days with the new HubSpot email tool. And I turn it over to any of the colleges if you wanted to comment on that.
Just for Laney's part, I'll say that our public information officer has done an outstanding job of really bringing together our message on social media, the various advertising outlets we use, and as well as email. And currently, just to really, with our enrollment management plan, stay to form and follow data, she's actually compiling data at this point to optimize HubSpot.
I'll just say that our PIO is really enjoying working with HubSpot and finding it very easy to work with and a great tool. Tina notes the analytics are amazing, and we're really appreciating them at the college.
The analytics definitely provide an opportunity to reinforce the types, the timing, the messaging in a way that a static one-dimension email just does not. So that has been really excellent for adjusting and being creative and responsive to students' needs.
I think Jennifer's back in, by the way, Mark.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Dr. Shanowski.
Well, she was. She just messaged me.
All right.
Okay.
Well, while we're waiting, if she arrives, we'll let her, speak in whatever.
Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Yes.
Now we hear you.
I was here. I was muted. I don't know what happened before. I apologize. I
I had two quick questions. One, well, and before that, I want to say, I'm really grateful to everybody, all the administration, and also the leadership of our board for really making such progress on all of these items so quickly. Also staff, I'm sorry, I would be remiss not to thank staff who probably did the brunt of the work. So two questions. One is, I know that in the past when the Board of Governors was getting a presentation on this, the Peralta assessment of our fiscal health was different than the assessment of Mr. Jim Austin. And I'm wondering if we've identified the differences and resolved those.
Is that your only question, or do you have another one?
And my second question is, I believe at the beginning of the presentations, there was a discussion about renegotiating retiree benefits. And I just wanted to, I'm wondering, I don't think that that's correct. And so I've not heard of that ever brought up before. And so I was wondering to get some clarification on that. Thanks, that's it. You can mute me now.
So if your question is about the retiree benefits, at the beginning of the presentation, BC Whitaker gave an explanation that really boiled down to those are subject to bargaining agreements, and so they're not going to be changed unless there's some, significant negotiation happening. Does that answer that?
We can get into it later. We can't renegotiate benefits of folks that are already retired. That's the concern.
Right. That's basically, yeah, that's basically the bottom line.
Thank you.
Okay. And as far as the difference between, Mr. Austin's calculation of the FCMAT score and the district's calculation of the FCMAT score, I really don't know how he determined his figures. So I guess I can't really say. I think the important thing to take away from the conversation, either from his calculations, and by the way, it's a automatic generating spreadsheet that punches out figures based on yes, no, or NA answers. But I think the important thing to take away is that according to the original calculation of FCMAT, the district was at a high risk of insolvency, and a lot of people were really concerned about the ability of the district to move forward. Whether you use Mr. Austin's or the district's, the score indicates that the district is stable and in the realm of low risk. And so for me, and I hope for everybody else in the district, while we're not at all thinking about letting up on our laurels, or sorry, resting on our laurels, I think that we all should be very proud of where we've come in less than, and I'm basically where you all have come in such a short period of time. So that would be how I might respond to that question. And we have about 30 seconds left. Any follow-up or summary statements?
There are no more questions that came in through the Q&A. No more hands raised if I lower Jennifer's hand. And with that, thank you all, everybody. I have to say, I did not think there was a chance that this team could make it through all of those slides. I am so impressed with the amount of information that was conveyed so quickly by my colleagues. So thank you all very much. For those that are joining on the meeting, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be posting the video in YouTube, and we'll be making the PowerPoint slides available in a PDF. I'll be sending out that information shortly. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Good job, guys.
Meeting.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.